Hello, and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And I'm just going to start with what a vibe. What a vibe it is to have. And I'm going to introduce Michelle Pecak to the show. Welcome to the show.
Yay, thank you so much. It is a vibe. We're vibing.
We're vibing. I think I always get so excited every time I go and introduce and I get tongue tied. Like it's just like
Yeah,
every time I seem to get my intro, down pat, but then I'm
good. It's
practically
in
like
the flow. It's in flow. It's all
it's in
good.
it's in total flow. 4 p.m. or just after 4 p.m. in Chicago, where it's no doubt freezing cold, and here it is in Australia, and it's Saturday morning for me, and it's going to be a hot one again today. So yeah,
Yeah.
talk about extreme. But I thought I'd just wear the sparkles as well today, just because we are going to have one of those sparkly kind of conversations. I'm super
Yay.
excited. I caught up with you the other week, and oh my gosh, I was blown away, like just in terms of and I won't go into it right now because I want to introduce you and I want to talk a lot about what you do because I just find it absolutely fascinating, especially with the way everything is right now in the world. It is what a time to be alive and what a vibe. So, Michelle Pecak, you're the founder and chief vibe officer, I should say, of My Vibe Human Design. You are a supply chain and pricing transformation executive turned human design strategist who builds systems at scale in business and in people. And I'm going to play with this because by day, you're a visionary supply chain and pricing expert with 20 plus years of experience leading enterprises. Transformations across 1 billion plus B2B distribution, manufacturing, and private equity backed organizations, whereby you specialize in rebuilding pricing architecture, restoring margins, and simplifying complexity and aligning cross functional teams. And then by heart, you are the founder and chief vibe officer of My Vibe Human Design, where you bring human design to corporate workshops, retreats, and executive development. Michelle, my understanding is you help leaders integrate strategy with self-awareness. We all need that self-awareness, right?
Yep.
Aligning confidence, communication, and conflict dynamics so performance becomes sustainable, not performative. And I think that's a big conversation we're having at the moment around this performative versus the ability to tap into who we truly are. So
Yeah.
your work lives at the intersection of margin and meaning, where operational clarity meets energetic alignment and leadership shifts from ego to impact. Now,
Mm.
just quickly, when you booked in for the pod and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience that you'd like to share when it comes to life, leadership, and or business, and you said how human design changed my entire view of success in capital letters. I
Yep.
gave away a lot of my power as a 5-1 projector when I tried to be like the men and take up space. I'm going to hand it over
Mhm.
to you because I had no idea what a 5-1 and all these things were. And then you just opened up my world. So over to you. Tell us a bit about your
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's interesting. As I've been in the supply chain space, it's a very male dominated field, but I was always good with people, always good at building teams, bringing people together, getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. And we used various, you know, assessments to do that in my career. And so I always loved learning about myself, whether it was StrengthsFinder or Enneagram or Culture Index or Myers-Briggs, or anytime they had an assessment I could take, I was all in, right? And I was one of the honest people that actually said like what I thought I was. I didn't try to like fake the system. And so I learned a lot about myself. And as I worked up my, kind of my career ladder, that was really what I thrived in, was getting the right people in the right seats, doing training, a lot of training on Excel or pricing or rebuilding. I'm a builder, right? And so then after some M&As and merger and acquisitions, a very toxic world to be in, because everyone's a little more out for themselves and, a lot of integrity
Yeah.
goes out the window in those zones. And so there was just kind of a layer of like, I don't want to do this anymore, but what do I want to do that does light me up inside? And that was when I found out about human design, and it really is the mix of astrology, the chakra system, Kabbalah tree of life, astrology, and the quantum physics. So it's like you combine all of these beautiful ancient wisdom with science. And I fell in love with it because I saw myself in a new way. I've done all the assessments, but this was like, wait, I didn't tell you anything about me except my birth date. Like, how does it know all of this stuff, right? And so then I really started learning it. And then it really did transform how I view success because I learned that like my number one gift, and you can combine different kind of, they're called like superpowers to make your kind of your life path. And my number one gift is bringing people together with the resources they need. And everybody I said that to were like, duh, of course that's your gift, Michelle. And I was like, that's funny. I'm really not using that in my corporate job. Maybe that's why I was so miserable and so gaslit and so just like, what is going on right now? Like, I don't even love doing this anymore. Right. And so I took that moment and then I was like, well, what do I do with that? Like, okay. So I just picked the wrong career then? Like, no, let's kind of unbake that a bit. And so kind of how I redefined success through that was like, okay, how do I take what I'm really good at, which is bringing people together, which did make me a good leader. It did make me see around the corner. I always knew how to connect processes, right, through my Six Sigma black belt. But like, how do I define success? Is it like the action? Is it bringing people together? And so it really was just that culmination of, you know what? If I really do what I'm best at and I monetize what I actually love to do by blending it with my joy, then there's going to have the largest impact. And to me, impact for me is a big piece of my success is taking my 5-1, which is, again, not to give like a lot of human design language for people that don't know this, but it's a certain type of like archetype. Right. And so a 5-1 is very expert teacher vibe. And I'm like, you know what? That is what I do. I bring people together through teaching or through this. Right. And so really it was kind of that balance of like, no, you didn't pick the wrong career or the wrong, the wrong path, but you can now take those skills that you learned in your day job. And now let's pivot it to really kind of launch you into that success zone. So it was a transformation for me of self-awareness. And then, we can go into the conversation, but then I was like, does everybody know about this stuff but me? Like I felt like there was this hidden gem of knowledge in the world and everybody might have, you falsely assume that everybody had this answer book the whole time except for you. And so that's been a beautiful journey of like, wait, no, not everybody knows this. Well, I am going to tell the world then because holy crap, if it can transform a 20-year, corporate supply chain executive into somebody who wrote a book called Joy Job, I feel like there's some unlocks for other people in there too.
Yeah, it's such a wild story, and I forgot to say you're an author of Joy Unleashed, and I know we will get into your book, but, like, when
All
you were
good.
telling me about that the other week, can you just show it to us, please, quickly? Can you pull
I
have you got your
sure
book right?
can. Yeah. So I'm a contributing author. So a bunch of authors got together and we all told our stories and our spark of how we incorporate joy into our life. And mine is I teach people through my chapter how to monetize joy through the lens of your human design life purpose. Because again, I wasn't planning on teaching human design, but I did find a love of human design as my joy job while I built my community and kind of did that pivot. So that was what I wrote. And you can read my story in there of kind of that moment on the beach where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now what, what do I do with that information? So yeah, that seems to resonate with
It's so
people.
fascinating. When I did, like, I mean, we'll talk about, towards the end of the show how to,
Mhm.
how to get in contact with you and your website
Sure.
and, because you can do your human you can get your, what would you call it? You get your human chart, like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
type it in.
Yeah, you can get it free on my website because when I learned this information, I think I got a little angry, which thank goodness isn't my not self in human design because that would have been ugly. But I got this like moment of like, why are we gatekeeping life transforming information, right? Like all of these assessments, you have to pay a fee or you have to do this or your
Yeah.
company has to have a subscription. And I was like, oh, like people need to have self-awareness. This world would be a kinder, better place if just because you're self-aware doesn't mean you've done the healing work and the trauma stuff, but that self-awareness at least gives you a lens to look at the world through maybe your foggy glasses, right? And not always blaming and projecting, your insecurities on everybody else. So anyways, I get excited about that because I want the information to be free and I want to give people tools to then be able to take it to the next level. So yeah, I have it on my website and it's called a body graph is what it's called. I call it kind of your soul's operating system. That's what I call it
Mm.
because I have 20 years in operations, so I don't know anything that doesn't have an SOP, a standard operating procedure behind it. So as I was teaching human design, I was like, you know what, we're just going to make this your soul's operations manual because it's like when your check engine light goes on in your car, you don't read the whole manual start to finish. You just go to like page 74 and you read that. So that's kind of how I like to train human design because you can learn thousands of things about yourself. So it can be a very overwhelming piece. But I want to give people a nugget where they fall in love with it.
Yeah, well, you certainly gave me like I think it also like it's not just learning, but it's also reaffirming or affirming. Like, we were
Yeah.
just talking just before, like about a couple of
Yeah.
things, and like, I'm a 5-1 manifester, and you can explain a manifest, but like, as I was, talking to Ask Ali, which is because you've integrated into the soul system, that AI and tech. So I love that collaboration between human and
Yep.
AI as well. And, like to bring those practical tools and you get your report. It's very like it's a one pager. It's very easy to understand. But
Mm,
then you can delve into all the because I didn't think that. Like I'm like, I just put my birth date into this thing and now all of a sudden, like I actually went and triple checked it again the other day because it said report written in May of 1977. I was born in 77 or not May, but whatever month, but I was born in
yeah.
August. I'm like, "Hang on, I was trying to see if it had got something wrong." Do you know what I mean? Because I was just like, "This is
Yeah.
just beyond accurate." But
Yeah.
then the ability to I think for me, what I love and what I had never I guess, understood from a human design perspective was that, oh, yeah, this is actually just it's like when you're at the crossroads and you're kind of going, I know I'm something more, or I know I can do something different. I'm bored in the role I'm in, or I'm bored in life, or I'm bored in a business, but I
Yeah.
don't know what to do, or I don't know how to take a step forward. And I felt like this just like if I had this a few years ago when I was in complete a state of flux, I probably wouldn't have been able to, at that point in time, known what to do. But it's like, yeah, like, I keep going back to it, going, yes, this is who I am. This is what I'm meant to be doing. Stop doing the stuff that you're not meant to be doing. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, well, and it's because your open centers are where you're susceptible to conditioning and what other people think you should be doing.
Yeah.
People usually give advice through the lens of their lived experience and what's been successful for them. And especially and that does work for a large majority of the world because 70% of the world is a generator type. But then there is the 9% manifestors. I'm the 20%, which is a projector. And then there's a very rare 1% that's called a reflector. So I do think that people give that information. And if you're one of the 70% of generators working with another generator, that advice may be good for you. But I remember like hearing advice from people and being like, that would never work for me. I don't know why. That would never work for me. Right. And so to your point, it's kind of that moment of truth when like you see your chart and then you're like, oh, I'm a manifester. I am here to inform. You know what? I can come across a little bossy, but it's because I know something and I'm here to tell you what it is. And I'm like, but yes, that's literally what a manifester is supposed to be here for, right? But then it's like, well, that can be like a little off-putting to people that are like, hold on, bossy pants. Like, who do you think you are, right? It depends on how it's perceived. And so when you know your embodied chart, you can be like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Are you okay if I share what I'm seeing? And then people are like, "Oh yeah, sure." So now all of a sudden you like gave yourself permission to inform them so that they weren't like thinking that you're coming across arrogant or bossy. So there's these beautiful moments of reflection of like, yes, but I have to soften the edges a little bit of who I am in order to be better received in a mass audience, right? So for like a
Yes.
manifestor, there's so many nuggets in there of like how to be better received in the masses. There's also a level of like no F's given, this is who I am and take it or leave it. So you can really take it to whatever extreme to really just bring in the people that are very aligned with you. And to me, that's the freedom that human design gave me was boundaries to say, this is what I do, this is what I'm not. And also like, hey, I have new language to say that's not my vibe. Like that's how kind of my vibe was born. It's like, this is my vibe and this is not my vibe. I don't have to say, oh my God, did you see her? She's such a bitch. I don't like her. You don't have to get catty. You don't have to get that. You're just like, you know what? For some reason, we're not vibing. I can't tell if it's her voice or whatever it is, we're just not vibing. And it's just a nice way of self-reflecting that some people are going to trigger you. That's what they're here on this planet to do, is like trigger you to get a reaction. That's a lesson that you're here to learn. And so all of this stuff is just so beautifully intertwined and gives me words to articulate this whole complexity of human, like, conflict, communication, confidence. It all is interwoven into really our soul's blueprint. So, I mean, I can stop talking about that because I could go on forever, but it's just a layer of affirmation, validation, and also like, these are lessons I'm here to learn. So when I get really triggered by something, I'm like, okay, what are they trying to teach me? What are they trying to teach me? What are they trying to teach me right now? Because then you have a new lens of like, okay, they're probably not trying to make my life a living hell. They're probably equally frustrated with me. And I just know that I'm supposed to learn something through this interaction, you know?
Yeah, I'm also thinking about triggers lately in terms of just like maybe I've just evolved and like I'm triggered by it because I never used to be triggered by it, and I'm like, no, that doesn't fit into my world anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm really starting to dig into triggers that way. Tell me, I absolutely love, and I'm all about the soul, the interconnection of, the mind, body, soul, but the interconnection of a leader, the interconnection of a business in terms of, every business should have a soul, should have a soul operating system. I've got
Exactly.
my own version of it. And I know we've spoken about this. It's been like, I guess for me, human design, soul, all that sort of language, I've been warned previously, stay away, don't bring it into business. People won't understand it. You're going too far. A chief financial officer won't buy it, etc. But the more and more we talk about this, and the more and more with, the current paradigm literally falling to pieces, like the powers of
Yep.
be, etc. What's
Yep.
your view on bringing this into businesses? And do you, because obviously, given your background, have you brought it into these types of businesses? Have you had much success in terms of, are they open to it, or are you still feeling like there's this old world that is just like this? Excuse me, I don't know, I've got some allergies at the
You're
moment.
good. Good.
But, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that
I
more than
do.
ever, this is the sort of work that is going to, I guess, who's gonna be sustainably successful and who's not, and it's reshaping and redefining what success looks like.
Yep. Well, I have a couple of angles here. One is the paradigm shift. Like, this is the last year, 2026, of the Industrial Revolution. This 400-year cycle is coming to an end, and we're moving into the era of the sleeping phoenix. And that is more about individual empowerment values. I could go on about that, but we are at this precipice of like ending an era and starting a new one. And so, kind of in my distribution world, I would kind of describe it as like, if you're energy lead certified, right? Like you're lean and your energy and you're sustainable, all those certifications. I believe that businesses are moving to a layer of consciousness and are more open to this than they ever have been, because I have been in my, executive groups for a very long time now, and I'm going to tell y'all, every executive has like a woo goody closet. They do. They bring out like, their tarot cards, or their this, or their sage, or they bring out their crystals, and you're like, "Whoa, okay. We're just not talking about it." Right? And I heard somebody once, like, I
Why
don't
aren't we,
know,
Michelle?
because I think that it feels too woo, and the word comes to me is unprofessional, right? And I'm like, but what's unprofessional about literally understanding the human connection, and that there's things, and there's kind of these energetic connections that draw in the right aligned things for us. And I actually heard somebody say this once. I don't know if it's true, but it's directionally something I like. They said, you know what? Billionaires have psychics on speed dial, millionaires have a therapist. And I kind of had a moment of like, see, there is a division here of like people that truly have these levels of intuition. They really do go further in business. They just don't use the language to acknowledge that that's a piece of it, right? Like, oh, let's build a 5-year plan. Well, isn't that the same thing technically as manifesting? Really? Like, if you really believe in a plan and you're laying out the details and the vision board and the KPIs and you're backing into it, aren't you just manifesting your next 5 years? Like, I think it's just a different terminology, and we can you can say whatever you want, whether it's woo language or business language, but I do think that in businesses there is that forward thinking. I think they're being more open to kind of hearing new language. Like there is a few of the conscious companies that I work with, they are actually bringing in like tarot therapists, and I was like, I don't even know what that is, but just something
What
to
is
help
a tarot
people.
therapist?
I know. They literally will bring in like oracle decks and then just sit with people and be like, what are you struggling with? Let's see what the deck says. And then kind of just like using the spiritual knowledge to kind of give them insight, right? And some people are open to it. And it's so funny because so many of the events that I'm at now, they are so beyond curious to know what this is. And that is how I feel the paradigm shift. And the people that are like, that's weird, all that based on my birthday. I'm like, they've been doing it in ancient India and matchmaking and all these things for hundreds of whatever, millions of years. We're just kind of putting language to it in a new modality because human design was created in 1987. Like that was kind of when the download of it all kind of came in. So it hasn't been around as long as some of the other ones have. And it's just really beautiful. And I like to say, if you're into it or not, what does it hurt unless you have like, something that you're really against this stuff, then don't go into it. But what does it hurt to like experiment with some of the information? Like, what if this was true? Like, what if wait for invitation was the right strategy for me? I'm gonna try it, right? And I'm in a quantum wellness class right now. And you can attach different gates to different amino acids and proteins in your body. Like, so if you're having issues with the throat and you have an undefined throat with this gate, you might have thyroid issues. So, what does it hurt
Mm,
to go try and go down that path to see? I'm not diagnosing anybody, but what does it hurt to like go down the path of like, these are my superpowers? And then you're like, yeah, actually, those are my superpowers. I never thought about it because usually your superpowers are things that come so naturally to you that you don't even think of it as a gift. And I'm like, no, but that's the whole point. That's the gift you're given because it comes so easy. Why don't you figure out how to monetize that either in your day job or somewhere else where people value that skill set? Right.
gosh,
And so that's a
yeah,
long answer to like, yeah,
no, I
go
love
ahead.
it. I love it. We're gonna come to the monetization piece in a minute because it comes back to fear, I think, and success, etc. But what's
Yep.
been coming up for me and listening to everything you've just been talking about then is like performance on its own is just performative performance, hustle, all of that is just everyone's exhausted
Yep.
up by it. Like so I think that
Yep.
there is more opening up of woo or whatever we want to call it, but it's not woo.
Yep.
It's literally consciousness. It's like you
It's
say, that's that
consciousness.
intuition, but it's
Yep.
meaning and mattering. Like, it's having more meaning and mattering. And I think, like watching everything that's happening, in the world, in the news right now, the Epstein files, everything that's going on, like the different power plays and just so many different
Yeah.
things that are just falling down. What's been
Yep.
popping up for me, I'd love your thoughts on this, is there's this
Yeah.
new entrance of power for good. So you talk about superpowers. I love the term superpowers. I use it more than the word. It's not just strength, it's what is your superpower. And
Yeah.
I feel like average, person is stepping into a different sort of power where it's power for
Yes.
good. And then how do we leverage that? And how do we monetize that? How do we access that? How do we bring that into business? How do we bring that into more of our leadership style? And so everything you're talking about here is making perfect sense because it's been around forever. Like it's not like it's new. It's just that we shut it down as a society. I guess when we came into this industrial revolution, it was like, absolutely not. We have to focus this way and do it this way. But it's not working. It's caused so much burnout, it's caused so much, bad behavior, if you like,
Right.
and so here we are now.
Yeah. I mean, really, the whole pyramid where like there's only a few at the top that get rich on the expense of everybody lower down the pyramid. People don't love that. Who loves feeling like a number in the cog of a huge wheel? And so, what I kind of see coming in these massive layoffs and again some of these big trends right now is, you know what, it's when the company gets so big that they almost can't help themselves, they become their own
Yeah,
machine. I think that that's when some of this falls apart, and I actually don't think that it's malicious and intentional. Like, I've worked in the
No.
billion-dollar space. They're actually some of the most dysfunctional companies I've ever seen run, because you're literally in the C-suite going, "This is what we're working with? Really?" Like, and again, not just the companies I worked at, like, what I've seen out there in boards I've been on, it's like, "Really? This is what we're working with? Okay, alright." And there's some amazing companies out there as well, don't get me wrong. But like when you're looking at these pyramids and they just get so big, they get out of control a bit. So, what I'm seeing in these big layoffs is more companies that are going to be conscious, building companies of, let's just say 200 people, 200 million, and everybody makes over $200,000 a year. I'm like, wait a minute. From the secretary and the janitor all the way up to the C suite, I'm not saying everybody makes the same salary, but it's not people at the top making millions while other people are making barely minimum wage.
Yeah.
The pyramid schemes, I think we're onto them, right? They don't feel great. And so I know back in kind of like the olden days, I'll call it, you felt valued at a company. You stayed there forever because you were valued, you were taken care of. There is no more big companies taking care of anything, right? And there's really nobody that has your back. And that's not even trying to be pessimistic. I'm trying to be realistic to say, well, then find a company that is aligned with your values, works with extraordinary people that you get along with, you jive with, and then all build something together, because you still need janitors and accountants, and that you still need all the roles to run a company, but treat every role
100%.
as if it's a contributor to the bigger picture. And nobody is better or worse than the other people. That is how people get empowered. And that is really what the Sleeping Phoenix is awakening into, is really we're going from the planning phase to the self-empowerment. There's a whole channel and a circuit of self-empowerment, and that's what's being activated literally next year. I mean, we're on like TikTok. Like, we're on like finally the 365 countdown to the Sleeping Phoenix is here. And so I'm really excited to see people get in their empowerment. You're seeing people mistrust authority. And some of that is, for lack of a better word, like by design, because then it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? Right. And I actually like to say, I kind of have a saying, I haven't put it out there in public a ton because it sounds a little crazy, but why not? Is some of us are building Noah's Ark. We see the floods and the wickedness and all the crap coming. And so we're just going to build the ark, and the good people are like pairing off two by two. And let's just build something that is sustainable, because we can't control what's coming. If there are floods, or there is a depression, or there is something coming, like a metaphorical flood, all we can do is try to live in the moment and take care of the people that we love, and continue our legacy. And so I just kind of say that, from a positive standpoint, in a world that's kind of dark, all we can do is focus on our superpowers, align people, and then we can pool our resources and everybody rises up, right? So like when the ark is, the flood is there, the ark is rising up together. And I don't know, that's kind of the image right now that keeps me just feeling positive about, there are good people out there. There's plenty of money. Money is just a currency. We are just right now too split and too divided. And so everything's
Yeah.
got to like break apart to kind of re-level out. And I think that releveling is gonna happen by 2030. So there's just a lot. I put a lot of dates and stuff out there, but when you're looking at the timeline, I feel like that's what's coming. And so let's just try to be more conscious, build people up. I mean, if you have so many people laid off, everyone's looking and scrambling for something, you know what I mean? And there's just these layers of saying, we need to save the planet, we need to do better, we need to align with our values, and that's the empowerment of the shift. And that's what people are gonna
Mm,
look for. Like, we still need people that do the jobs, but at least do it with people you like and a company you actually believe in, you know?
agree. So agree. Tell us just
Yeah.
quickly, oh gosh, I've got too many questions, but tell us just quickly
Okay.
about human design and how you look at it, apply it to a business. So we think about like a soul system, operating system for a human. Is it exactly the
Absolutely.
same, like, like your chart that you can do, like, complete the chart? Like, I shouldn't call it a chart, but you know what I mean? But, like, how does it
I
work for
do.
a total business? Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Excuse me.
I have a couple things that are interesting about that question, because your question's more intuitive than you probably even know, because your business has a birthday. So you can actually run
That's
a
what I was
chart
just
for.
thinking before. I was thinking I might
Yeah.
just punch my business birth date
Yep.
into your
Correct. So you actually can look at, and then we're getting a little advanced detailed here, but hey, we intuitively went there. I love it. That you can actually put like your birthday of your business in and see what's the vibe of your
Yeah.
company, right? Based on when you created it, right? Everything that has a birthday can technically go into human design to see the vibe of what it is, right? So then you can look as
Yeah.
a founder in a company and do a connection chart to see, well, I'm a 5-1, projector. What is my business? Oh, my business is a generator, or my business is this. And it doesn't like give you insight into like how successful the business will be or anything like that, but it does teach you kind of the vibrational match
Yeah.
and kind of the like the foundation of what it was built on, right? Because think about birthday is just like, hey, this is the foundation your soul was built on, right? But then
Yeah.
when you use human design in a business, it's about the people, right? It's really about looking at your chart to see where do you communicate effectively? How do you have confidence? And I do a lot on conflict as well because there's 4 different ways that you can build relationships with people. You have these electromagnetic, compromise, dominance, and you've got companionship. And they're different ways of like some people you just really get along with. There's a spark, you totally get along with them. Other people, it's just like, no, they're again not my vibe. And sometimes if you can really look at a company and every group of people has their own energy, right? So anytime from 3 to 5 people, it's called a penta chart. So you can look at a small group, like a family. They have their own energy, their own vibe. You can see what's missing in the chart. Like, okay, like we're missing some admin and some discipline here in this group. Like you guys probably like to have a lot of fun and the bills aren't getting quite paid, are they? And people are like, ooh, how did you know that? But you can look at the vibe of the chart to kind of see what core common skill sets and to drive the business are missing, right? And then when you get bigger into a Y energy, that's up to 16 people. Again, you can kind of look at some of these dynamics and really help people. You also can really kind of, for lack of a better word, pinpoint the black sheep that may like everybody knows it, but like when a consultant comes in and is like, hey, there's a lot of electromagnetic energy in this group. Probably have, you're probably working harder, not smarter, right? And if you can acknowledge that, sometimes everybody can just diffuse a little bit,
Mm.
work through the conflict. And sometimes I just flat out like to say, hey, these 2 people, this person's going to trump you on this. Like almost like if you're playing euchre or any card games, like they trump you. Just let them have it. Stop
Right.
fighting them. They're going to win. Like their energy is going to win. And so I've had some really open conversations with people about this is where you're triggered. This is where you trigger other people, right? Some managers are very intimidating. They don't even mean to be, right? They have a defined
Right.
root, they have a defined ajna, and like in a manifestors have a vibe. It can actually be seen a little bit cold and repelling to people when they first meet a manifestor because they just it's an energy before you even say a word. And so knowing that can really help you connect with somebody knowing that that's how you come across. And so whether it's
Yeah.
individual coaching or just the energy of a group, these can really break down some walls that actually had some pretty high functioning teams. They just started getting into stress and chaos, and that's when your shadow comes out. When you're really stressed, all the negative stuff starts coming out, and if you can kind of
Right.
call that out, you can kind of rise up back into the gift zone of like, okay, we're just going to need to take a pause here. Let's let everybody simmer down a bit. Here's where we're going to move forward. So there's so much information that gives words to describe conflict and communication. And it's just really powerful to do workshops at that kind of level. But again, going back to what I first said at the beginning, it takes a level of consciousness to say, oh, yeah, that is me. Or, because if you get somebody that's immediately defensive or thinks this stuff is crap, I'm like, okay, then you go use some of the self-reported assessments where everybody lied. And then you base all of your word on the
Just
people
yeah.
that they put in, they said what you wanted to hear, and now you're going to act on the fact that everyone's lying to each other about who they are. If you think that that feels safer to you, then you're probably not conscious enough to be open to something like human design. And in all fairness, they can have really great results with assessments because they truly believe in the results and they act on the results that they see. It doesn't matter if they're true or not. If they believe they're true, they're going to take aligned action on it. And so I just like human design because it's not self-reported. You really can't hide it. And you also brought up something that's pretty interesting on like your dates. So there's a personality side to human design and also a design side. So 88 days before you're born is kind of when your body and some of your more physical levels kick in. That's the unconscious side. That's really how other
That's the
people see
May.
you. Yeah,
That's the
that's the
May
May
for
date.
me. I was
Exactly.
like,
So that
"Why
is
is this saying August?"
totally. On either side of your chart, you'll see this is who you think you are, your personality. That develops until your age 35 to 40. Then the unconscious side is how other people see you. And you're kind of like, really? That's how they see me? That's the vibe you give off. But that's like your body language, your aura, your energy. It's kind of like there's two different sides to your energy. And one of them you're more conscious of, and one of them are more unconscious of. So again, it does get into this level of like, hold on, you lost me on that one. Like, this is mind blowing, right? And all I want to say is, as people are digesting some of this information, is just start with a tiny piece. Do you want to know where your money blocks are? Great. Let's just look at your Jupiter right now. That's it. Just look right here. You don't even need to know that's Jupiter. I will just tell you, done for you, what your money block is, right? And giving people those layers is really empowering. Like for me, knowing that I'm a projector and I need to wait for invitation, very empowering. That's what I kind of said in my intro of like, I gave away a lot of my power as a projector by not waiting to be invited into the conversation. I thought my VP title and being in the room where it happens, like I thought I should speak up. I thought I should speak up for my team and say things. But all that did was leave me very susceptible to gaslighting and manipulation. So it's like, well,
Yeah,
shoot, they didn't want to know what I had to say. They weren't truly listening to my solutions because they didn't value them. So then they just took my words and manipulated them and used them against me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't very successful on my part, was it? But yet I did it. Like I gave them ammo to use against me because I
yeah,
wasn't following my success strategy. So looking back, like human design is so beautiful to look back on because that reflection point is like, oh, yeah, I do need to wait for invitation. In fact, every job I've ever had was created for me. Well, that's like the definition of waiting for invitation. So I was really successful when I followed that path, but then I got into the C suite and felt like I had to be somebody I wasn't, in all fairness,
and
right? And
giving into
standing
that
up for things.
thought.
You know,
Yeah.
you kind of put on that cloak for a little bit, and that's where we start to get out of alignment. And honestly, it's not who you really are. It usually does backfire, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Tell me a little bit about and I'm conscious it is a Friday afternoon for you as well. Excuse me, I have the worst allergies this morning. I don't know what is going on. I'm so sorry. But
Okay.
tell me a little bit about money blocks. So I'm going to throw
Yep.
three things at you.
Okay.
Money
All right, I got it.
blocks,
Yep.
going with the flow because, talking about not just going with the flow, but being in flow, the ability to shine your brightest, perform at your best. And I guess it's not even three things, it's those two in terms of, I think about in terms of when I get blocked, it's because from a monetary perspective or just in general, it's because I'm pushing, I'm efforting, I'm going against, being the manifester, if you like, the 5-1
Yeah.
manifester. I'm in the
Yeah.
weeds, I'm in the detail, like we were talking before pre-show again. That's not where I'm meant to be. And when I'm down in it, I can do it, but I hate it. And I get like, and then you just get stuck and everything drops. Your self-awareness drops, your self-worth drops, all of that sort of, back to even like who you are as a person and
Yep.
success. And so
Yeah.
you were just talking about waiting for the invitation. What's your view on all of that? Because I think that, my I guess where I'm going with this is you can't just sit still, like as an entrepreneur and having your own business. You can't just sit still and go, right, I'm just going to sit here and surrender and wait for it all just to come to me. But
Right.
it's a really delicate dance because there's also an aspect where, when you do just push and when you just keep efforting and efforting, and then you see all these blocks around you, and then the
Yeah.
minute you just surrender and let go, things just doors open and things happen naturally. That
Yeah.
still for me is something that I'm like, still getting wrapping my head around, right? Because it's like, how
Yeah.
much do you just surrendered to it, but then how much it's like a real, like it comes back to
Personal.
performative, I guess, versus being able to
Yeah.
step into being more conscious, the ability to step into, accessing the flow. Like, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. It's a really great question. And it really boils down to the fact that we have some conditioning and we're working in a broken system. So there's,
Mm,
if we were in a functioning system that worked and flowed, we could all be our authentic selves and wait for invitation and all this.
mhm.
Every type does have a different strategy for success, but we have to utilize it in a broken system. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like in an ideal world, we could all be our full authentic selves and money would flow to everyone. There would be this equilibrium shift. But we all know that's going to take the next 400 years to get to that point. So I don't know about you, but I'm probably not living to 400. So what do I do now to kind of get that into alignment for me, for my children, for that, right? And I like to say when it comes to kind of money, money really is an energy, right? And when you're in alignment and flow, that's when you kind of have the currency flow, right? Money flow and movement. So, really, isn't just being in alignment going to flow money to you, like in a perfect kind of scenario there, right? And so what that means is you have to work in a broken system with your strategy. So for example, I'm a projector who needs to wait for invitation. That does not mean sit with my feet up in the hot tub, hoping my phone rings and praying my savings won't run out. No, 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 no. That is not a strategy. That's not even a manifestation, right? But what I do have to do is say, okay, I am a 5-1. I'm a teacher, I'm an expert. Okay. I need to teach. I need to be in groups. I have a transferal line where I'm supposed to be in front of a lot of people. Okay. Maybe speaking would be aligned with that. Maybe I should write a book. I wrote a book. Like, okay, well, that feels like another door of something that very much is aligned, right? But also looking and saying, okay, but a projector needs to be visible in a chaotic world so that people even know to invite them in. I mean, how do people know to invite me in unless they hear me on a podcast and are like, holy crap, mind blown, where do I find this chick? Right. So
Yeah.
part of a projector is being visible and being out there, right? Part of a manifestor's vibe would be a very similar vibe of like teacher, right? A 5-1, but a manifestor vibe would be I'm going to be a thought leader. I'm going to have an opinion on everything and I'm going to tell you how I feel and then therefore the right people that want my knowledge and my expertise are going to not invite me in but they're going to want to hire me as a leader because they want to be led by somebody that has that level of brazenness or confidence, etc., right? Also, as a manifestor, I'd be like, bring in a good projector with you because they can soften the blow of some of the strategy weed stuff that you were talking about. Really, it's about finding the right partnerships. And so the other
Yeah.
layer of getting money and flow in currency is I think we need to get out of silos and I think we need to collaborate a lot more because collaboration means in a perfect world for me, my perfect world is paperwork free. Okay. Because maybe you don't have to get married to another business partner to do a workshop together, to do a retreat together. You don't have to
Right.
co-sign your LLC in order to work with somebody. Like that is the old paradigm of like ball and chain. There's reasons that some of those, stereotypes exist. But two people that can come together with a similar vision can do something together, make a lot of money, and then move on and do something else with another person. And then if something works or doesn't work, you have plenty of wiggle room and pivot point. There doesn't need to be an HR conversation. There doesn't need to be paperwork signed, right? I'm not saying you don't have to protect yourself, but when you collaborate, it becomes more win-win and everybody wants to thrive and win, right? And so if you're working for a company who you're unaligned with values and you don't see it and they're not aligned with you, I mean, what's your motivation to grow? What's your energetic vibe of like trying to make everybody win? It diminishes pretty quickly. In fact, that's when stealing happens. That's when people start breaking down some of their integrity because they're like, what's the worst that could happen? Right. I'm like, well, you can get fired, but I guess if you hate the job, I see your point. Right. And that's kind of this negative vibration we're in right now of like capitalism, like the Gen Zs and all the gens coming after us, they don't want to work 70 hours a week to make somebody else at the top really rich. They want to travel, they want to live on less. They have seen the cluttered
Totally.
homes parents live in. They have unsubscribed to everything that we have created. And I say we, meaning like, let's say in our 40 to 70s, right? They've
Yeah,
just
100%.
unsubscribed from the model. So it's like, well, the paradigm is shifting. The generations are all trying to figure out different ways of monetization. And at the end of the day, I think it really boils down to value, self empowerment, and collaboration. I really do.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh, I could keep talking and talking to you, but I'm conscious that, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
it's
to we're going to probably have to do another session, or do another pod
Yeah.
down the track because you've got this whole community that you've created as well, and
Yeah.
every I love everything about that. Tell us, how do
Thank you.
we find out more about you, Michelle? How do we find out more about your community? Give us a quick little 30-second elevator pitch on your community and,
Yeah.
yeah, how
No, thank you. I received that. I want to meet people where they're at. And as a 5-1, I've really tried to create a lot of different ways for people to connect with me. Some people might think that's confusing. I think it meets everybody where they're at with their budget and their time. So I have a community called My Vibe Community. It's for healers, entrepreneurs, professionals, executives, just to come together, share business, build that like zone of collaboration, right? But as far as human design goes, I teach human design in my vibe, but I also teach it in my Substack because I want people that to have access to it that wouldn't really join my community. They're like, well, I love her human design, but like, I don't really fit into that bucket. So then you can join my Substack. That's where I teach human design. I call it microdosing. That's where I call it the soul operating system. Yep. And I just microdose every week. Like I'll put like different insights on human design and how to use it in everyday life. Like on President's Day, I did one on Mount Rushmore. What were the different types of our presidents back in the day? And right. So I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. I love to share free thought leadership. My community is available, and then also My Vibe Human Design. I want my charts to be free because I don't want to gatekeep this information. And then you had said, I built, you referenced Coach Allie. Yeah, I built, so my background is scaling billion-dollar companies through pricing strategy. So I took human design and made a pricing model of you. You can ask my chat GPT coach Allie anything about human design. Once she has your chart, she'll be able to converse with you and answer your everyday questions. Because again, I don't want to gatekeep. If everybody has to have a private one-on-one with me, I can't scale this company. I can't get this out into the world to the masses. So I've built resources for free because I want everybody to have these amazing unlocks. And then as a projector, when you're like, oh my gosh, this was amazing, will you come in and do a corporate workshop? Or come to my retreat or speak at my event. Now I have the reciprocity of the give get. But people need to have their own personal unlocks before they know how it can apply to like the greater audience that I serve.
amazing. You're incredible. I love it. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Brady.
I
You're
encourage
welcome.
everyone to go onto Michelle's website and get your chart done and talk to Ellie. She's very
Yeah.
to the point and she doesn't mess around and she gives you exactly what you need to hear. And it's just up to you then to take from it what you will and how you then put it into practice. So Michelle, sending
Yeah.
you so many vibes because this has been such a
Mm.
vibey chat. I will get you back on at some point later in the year, I think, heading
Yeah.
into the next year, and we'll see how this year lands. But thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful end of the week and weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. No, I appreciate that people are curious, right? Curious and conscious. If that lands with you, then we're going to be vibing. And if you're like, what are those words? Then maybe we're not vibing. And honestly, both are very welcome in my world because having a vibe match is very important to having the largest impact.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.